Hi, class. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the purpose of um, introductions and paragraphs and conclusions, transitions, thesis statements. I have prepared a PowerPoint, and it is the link for it is right below this video. So if you ever want to go back to it and read through it, or if you want to open it and follow along as we go through, whatever your needs are, it's there for you. You can open it and follow through or follow along or use it later while you're writing your paper if you want. Okay, so for project one, the informative essay, let's get started. This PowerPoint is to help you with getting started. It walks you through the introduction and the purpose of these elements that are throughout your paper. Excuse me. So, what is the purpose of an introduction? Um, there are a lot of things that an introduction can do for you. Um, One of the important things is it introduces your topic, right? It creates a bridge to transport your readers from their lives into your topic. Um, it also gives an initial impression about your writing and what we're going to read about. It creates a roadmap, which is usually your thesis statement. Your thesis statement usually tells us where you're going in your paper and exactly what we're going to hear about your topic. Your introduction also grabs your reader's attention so that they want to read on. So you want to put in that introduction important aspects that may be important to your audience and grabs their attention and makes them want to read on about your topic. Paragraphs. So, what is the purpose of a paragraph? A paragraph is a group of sentences or a single sentence that forms a unit. Okay. It creates a bridge to transport readers from their lives, just like an introduction. It keeps them involved in your topic and not thinking about their lives, but thinking about um, your topic and how it can incorporate into their lives, right? A paragraph supports one main idea. Okay. So you will have a topic sentence at the very first sentence in your paragraph. And it throughout the rest of the paragraph, it supports that one main idea. Okay. Your paragraph should also be a recurrent relationship between your thesis and the information in each paragraph with progression to facilitate your story or claim. All right. So basically, that just means that your thesis statement topic should be in your paragraph, right? If they're not related, then that paragraph shouldn't be there. The paragraph should relate back to your overall topic that's in your thesis statement. And as you go through, your paragraph should progress to facilitate a story or claim, all right? So that topic sentence should be followed by elaborate sentences of your topic sentence. Give examples, explain examples, and complete paragraphs, idea or transition into a new paragraph. So those giving examples and explain examples could be your sources, right? What you're using to back up your story or your claim. You can use those kind of examples and explain those examples, explain how the sources you're using go back to reiterate your thesis or your support your topic sentence, your main idea, right? Okay, so a conclusion. The purpose of a conclusion. A conclusion will help them see why all of your analysis and information should matter to them after they put the paper down, right? You want to leave them with something that maybe calls them to action, right? You can see that, and it's the last one, call to action. A conclusion provides last words on the topic and can help your audience see your topic differently. And it leaves them with something to take away, that call to action, right? Transitions. So transitions have a really good purpose in a paper and are important, and you need to think about them as you are writing your paper. Because it creates logical connections between sentences, paragraphs, and sections of your paper, right? It helps readers understand the logic of how your ideas fit together. That is so important. And it can make your organization clearer and easier to follow. So if you're talking about your first paragraph and you're talking about animal cruelty and how that can affect an animal, and then in the next paragraph, you start talking about how animal cruelty can affect humans. You've got to put a bridge in there. You can't go from one topic to the next topic. And yes, they're both about animal cruelty, but you need to explain how your logic of how your ideas fit together. So, you would bridge something about something like an example would be now that we have discussed animal cruelty and how it can affect pets and the importance of avoiding it, we can now talk about how animal cruelty can affect humans and come up with something that bridges those together, right? Like they both affect humans and animals the same. It's negative, right? There's no good thing about it. So you could bridge it like that. Just a quick example that off the fly in my head, it wasn't very good, but it shows you an example of how those two things can be related. And that's how you use a transition. You talk about what you're talking about in that paragraph and how you're going to transition into the next paragraph and what you're going to discuss in that next paragraph and how they blend together, what they have to do with each other. If there's no connection between the two, then you shouldn't be talking about it, right? Because then it would not be, you couldn't lead it back to your thesis, your topic. Okay, so a thesis, the purpose of a thesis, tells the reader how you interpret the significance of the subject matter under discussion. So you're going to talk about why it's important and how you're going to interpret that subject matter, your topic, right? Again, it is a roadmap for the paper. So, in other words, it tells the reader what to expect from the rest of the paper. You're going to give me a roadmap. You're going to tell me, okay, so I am talking about animal abuse in this paper, and I am going to talk about how it affects animals and their humans and how we can avoid it, right? So, there's three right off the top, okay, of my head. So that would give you a roadmap. It knows in the first sentence, I'm probably going to talk about animal abuse in the animal and then lead into how it can affect humans and then how we can avoid it for a better, more peaceful world for animals and humans, right? So the next thing, a thesis is an interpretation of a question or subject, right? So it's not the subject itself necessarily. It's an interpretation of a question or subject. So while I'm talking about animal abuse throughout the paper and how we can avoid it, get rid of it, that's my call to action, by the way. We're not necessarily talking about the whole subject of animal abuse. We have reined it in, right? So we're just going to give an interpretation about animal abuse and the effects it can have on animals and humans. Okay. A thesis statement can also claim that others might be a claim that others might dispute. Some people might say that animal abuse is not important to talk about. I completely disagree. A lot of people would. Animals have feelings just like we do. But others might say that they're below us. It doesn't matter. Who cares how they feel? And you have to think about those things when you are writing in your paper. While it's disgusting and horrible, those are claims that other people might make, and you have to be conscious about, right? Just like the Holocaust and Black Lives Matter and, slavery, and like they all have different opinions. Um, Other people might disagree with what you feel, and you have to address those. Um, and I think when it comes to matters of animal cruelty or slavery or the Holocaust, things like that, they're the people that think differently are for sure wrong. They are entitled to their opinion, just like everybody. We live in America where everybody can think what they want, say what they want. Um, so you have to think about those opposing arguments, and educated people need to fight for rights in an educated way, non-violent, right? So we want to be respectful, but change their minds in a good way, using that knowledge, right? Telling them why this is so wrong and explaining it in a way that they can't argue with, right? And changing their mind. That's what we want to do. Okay, so another reason that the purpose of a thesis, it makes is usually okay. It is usually a single sentence near the beginning of your paper, most often at the end of the first paragraph. That presents your argument to the reader. The rest of the paper, the body of the essay, gathers and organizes evidence that will persuade the reader of the logic of your interpretation. Okay, makes sense? So we always want to talk about the thesis statement being strong. What makes it strong? Is my thesis strong enough? So you want to ask yourself, do I answer the question? A question. Do I answer it? Right? So rereading the question prompt after constructing a working thesis can help you fix an argument that misses the focus of the question. If the prompt isn't phrased as a question, try to rephrase it. For example, discuss the effects of X on Y. Can be rephrased as, what is the effect of X on Y? Right? So the reason I put this in here is because when we're writing in an informative essay right now, um, and there's not really like, you're not having like a huge claim or an argument, you are more informing right now. This is going to be a topic that you are going to turn into an argument. So keep that in mind. It will turn into an argument. While your topic may just be informative right now, it will be an argument later on, and you will have to be thinking about how you can turn an informative essay and take the same topic and put it into an argument paper. So that's why I kind of put this in. For example, discuss the effect of X on Y and how you can rephrase it into a question so that you can argue. So you can think about the informative essay as going into that and thinking about your topic as, okay, I need to focus this on not only informing, but could I ask a question and turn it into an argument essay? So you want to make sure that when you do come up with the thesis statement, you want to make sure it is meeting the prompts and being strong and addressing a question. Have I taken a position that others might challenge or oppose? Most arguments are a yes for sure, right? Because you're arguing. And there is always somebody out there who is going to challenge or oppose your perspective. And that's okay. They can. It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that you're right. It just means that other people have different perspectives and the world would grow phenomenally if we could all just respect each other's perspectives and use those to grow. So, if your thesis simply states facts that no one would or even could disagree with, it's possible that you are simply providing a summary rather than making an argument, right? Or a claim. Is my thesis statement specific enough? This is huge. Thesis statements that are too vague often do not have a strong argument. If your thesis contains words like good or successful, see if you could be more specific. Why is something good? What specifically makes something successful? Those are the important questions. Does my thesis pass the so what test? If a reader's first response is likely to be so what, then you need to clarify to forge a relationship or to connect to a larger issue. So, like animal abuse, why is that important? Because it can affect pets and humans alike. So, not only is it important to get rid of animal abuse for the animals because they have feelings too, but it can also affect humans in a way that they might not recognize, where's the compassion? Are people that abuse animals lacking compassion? I would have to say absolutely yes. And I could argue that claim with sources and back that up so that people see that animal abusers lack compassion and it could possibly transfer to abuse of children and other people, right? So that's a good example of that so what test. Why would it be important? And if you can't see that in your thesis statement, then you need to clarify. So does my essay support my thesis specifically and without wandering? That's that I can't say that word for some reason. That is that being very specific, right? In your thesis statement. You don't want a generalized statement. You want a strong statement, very clear and detailed. And like I said, with the animal abuse, I'm not just saying, how does the animal abuse affect the world, right? That's too broad. That's huge. I could talk about a million things in that statement, right? So we want to rein it in. We want to only have a couple ideas and be very specific. So as I mentioned, I would rein it down to talking about animal use and pets and how they are affected by it. And then how the human doing the animal abuse could be affected by it, as I talked about earlier. And then maybe, what was the other thing I talked about earlier? How both of those could affect, I don't remember what I talked about, guys. Like there was three that I said earlier, but you get the idea. Like reining it in and being specific about a topic that you're going to talk about, right? Being very specific, not broad. Okay, so does my thesis pass the how and why test if a reader's first response is how? So if they are asking like, how does that work? Why, questions, like again, just be specific. Get that specificity in there. I said it. So that you can be very clear and detailed in your writing. That is extremely important. And again, or the why, your thesis may be too open-ended and lack guidance for the reader. See what you can add to give the reader a better take on your position right from the beginning, right? So you want to be specific and detailed in your writing. I would like to add real quick that just you need to be as specific in writing as you can be. You don't want to leave your reader to assume anything. So take out those ifs and theys and there and we and us. Be specific when you say those words instead of saying, this type of behavior. Well, what's this? Do you mean animal abuse? Animal abuse can be. And so then don't use this type of behavior. Say what behavior you're talking about. Or if you say we who? Me and you? Do you mean society? Do you mean Americans? Like put those specific things in your writing so that they're detailed and don't let your audience assume who you mean because they could assume incorrectly. And being direct and clear can really help the focus of your paper and the clarity so that your audience, me and your fellow classmates, can understand exactly what you're trying to say in that brain of yours. So make sure what you're thinking, you think outside the box about your audience and be as specific as possible in those details, okay? Okay, so that's it. I don't have any more for you for the purpose of. I think that gives you a very good idea of the purpose of the components of the essay. It lets you know why those components are important and why you need to focus and think about them as you are writing. All right. If you guys have any questions or concerns or need any help, don't hesitate to reach out to me.